Welcome back to the Upstate Coffee Collective podcast. Happy Monday again. Another beautiful week ahead of us. Get that grind on. Do whatever you got to do. Our guest today is none other than Iris Rogers, owner of Homestead Hemp 1787. Iris started her business 3 years ago, growing hemp on her family farm that has been in her family since 1787. She was able to grow hemp in New York State through the New York State Pilot Research Program prior to it becoming legal recreationally in New York State. Happy 420, by the way. This is the perfect episode for 420 since we are talking all things hemp. There are a lot of avenues that are going to be opening up for her and many hemp business people now that marijuana is legal in New York. I know there's like this weird transition period and there are ifs, ands, and buts, but I'm just, because it's not my wheelhouse, I'm just going to go with it's legal, and that's pretty tight. Iris is the 8th generation now to farm that land, and she's the first woman to do so. You'll get to know a lot more about Iris in this podcast. We really dig into like her backstory, where she came from, her philosophy for doing business, and really how she's been handling these different bursts of attention that she's been getting, how she capitalizes on it. So yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to it. Just want to let you guys know that our summer blend is here, the All Day ADK blend that we have been loving so much for so long. Is going through some changes. What we have decided to do is to shift the flavor profile of this blend seasonally. So if you haven't noticed, or if you're new to our community, All Day ADK has historically had 2 labels, and they're the same image of Indian head in the Adirondacks. It's beautiful, done by Eliza Charbonneau. And we have a summer version and a winter version, and we're really just sticking to labels, just to kind of do something symbolic. But we decided that we don't see a lot of people taking the same blend and shifting ratios in that blend to express different flavor profiles. And we really think that the current way that we have been blending this coffee really leans into cocoa and really feels nice and comforting for the winter. Now that we're moving into spring and summer, we actually are going to shift the ratio away from that cocoa and really highlight some of the more delicate, nuanced, sweeter notes in the coffee that come from the Ethiopian Guji in that coffee. So if you're not familiar with it, go check it out on our website, upstatecoffeecollective.com/shop. Listeners of this podcast can save 10% on a bag of All Day ADK. Use code podcast at checkout. Save yourself 10%. We really appreciate you. I don't like to plug too much stuff here, but if you like what you're listening to, it does really help us out if you hit that subscribe button or the follow button or whatever it is. It helps more people check us out. It helps more people find us on these platforms. We really appreciate it. All right, enough of this. Enjoy the conversation with Iris Rogers, owner of Homestead Hemp 1787. Welcome back to the Upstate Coffee Collective podcast, where we use coffee as a catalyst for conversation. My name is Matt Pfeiffer, my co-host Kevin Miner. Today, when are we going to be done with that bit?
It's never going to end now. Remember when I was doing chips for a while?
I missed the chips
we'll bring
bit.
that back.
All right. Our guest today is Iris Rogers.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Owner of Homestead Hemp?
Yep.
Yes.
You nailed it.
Nailed it. 1787. What's the
That's
deal
right.
with that? Is that a part of the name?
Yeah, that's a part of the name, and I have it as a tattoo.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because it's the date of that my family farm was founded. So
Love that.
1787.
That's a really cool way to take something authentic about like your family and yourself and kind of like make it part of your story.
Yeah.
Which becomes part of your brand, not necessarily that 1787 is the brand, but
Right.
like that's a really nice thing to include.
Yeah.
You know?
You ever get
Makes it
somebody?
easy.
You ever get somebody joke like, "Oh, is that your birth date or whatever?"
Always.
Stop
I'm
it.
a waitress at Basin Grill in Schuylerville, and constantly people are like, "Were you born in 1787?" I'm like, "Do I
Stop
look like
it.
I was born?"
I'm the perky
1787.
customer. I'm funny.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll play along, but then other times when we're slammed, I'm like, "Can we not? Like,
Can we
could
not
you
right
please
now?"
just give
Yeah.
me your order so I can go?"
Yeah, you're like, I don't have time to explain everything to you
Yeah.
right now.
Right. So sometimes I'll just say, "Yep,
And just walk away.
yep, I was born in
Yeah.
1787."
What's this restaurant that you work at?
Basin Grill. It used to be Clark's Steakhouse.
I'm sorry. You are blowing up on Lad Bible, BuzzFeed. You have a hemp farm. You're a distressed farmer. You're
Right.
a female entrepreneur, and you're still pulling shifts.
Yeah.
Love
so
it.
pulling
Whoa.
shifts. Yeah. Well, because I still
Respect.
live with my parents. Starting a business, you don't make any money in like first 3 to 5 years.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, buddy. Yep. And
We know.
so I live with my parents and I love them.
Okay.
But I'm so desperate to
Yeah.
move out.
Oh, I
So,
bet. What is that restaurant like? Real quick. Just
I love it.
let's get that out of
I
the way.
actually
I've never
do
even
really
heard
like
that place. What
working
is-
there. It's a
Yeah?
very pleasant place. Yeah, and it's right on the water. So
kind of food?
They transitioned to seafood after the steakhouse because like the inflation with meat prices went up. So we transitioned to seafood.
Oh,
but I
cool.
really actually do enjoy working there. And with
Nice.
everything going on, it actually is nice to just like step away from my life and like go and just like talk to people and talk about food
Yeah.
and be outside and be near the water.
Yeah,
So
there's
it's
almost
great.
that transition, like work is a break from work is a break from
From
work.
work is a break from work. Yeah.
Oh, I
exactly.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, before we go any further, we need to ask this question. Just for the listeners, who are you? How are you? And what do you do?
Okay, yes. So I'm Iris Rogers, and I'm 27. And 3 years ago, I started my own business on my family farm in upstate New York. Yay! Started growing hemp through the New York State Pilot Research Program, and my farm has been in my family since 1787. So I'm the 8th generation to farm it, and the first woman. No big deal.
NBD.
Yeah, NBD. So I started growing hemp 3 years ago, and then only just this past September, I was able to launch a brand product line using the CBD that comes from my plants that are grown at the farm. So that's what I do,
That's awesome.
which is great. How am I? I'm a little overwhelmed, to be honest.
Why is that?
Yes, I'm blowing up, which is great.
Yes.
So I went viral on TikTok with my story about my family farm's missing deed, and then I had, some good press. I had Lad Bible and everything like you had mentioned, but I'm a little overwhelmed because TikTok can be very demanding and people are like demanding more from me, but
Right.
I run a business and I work a waitressing job, and I have to package orders and I have other things going on. So I'm a little overwhelmed,
Yeah.
but I'm managing.
Yeah, but you are managing it well.
Thank you.
If you could manage the explanation that I would like, so there's like a 6-part video so far of this deed, right?
There's 16.
16 now. Oh my God, I left off at 6.
When I went into the crawl space?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
there's been a lot more.
Could you give us like for the listeners? Could you give us like the Reader's Digest version of this deed debacle?
Yes. Okay. Deed debacle. So basically, the basis of the story is that my great grandfather Albert used to keep the original 1787 deed, and I'm going to pause here because everybody's like, "Girl, just go to the clerk's office and get a copy." I do not need a copy. We have a copy. I want the original.
Yeah.
So the original was kept in a milk can by my great grandfather Albert when we were a working dairy farm, and so it was kept in a milk can, and the story is that it went missing when it was accidentally filled with milk, the milk can, and sent out for delivery, and that's how
my
we lost
God.
the deed. And so I've always heard this story I heard the story growing up, and directly actually from my mom, who heard it from my grandma Nancy, and she was married to Cliff, who was Albert's son. So it's like telephone, right? And so I was like, well, did anybody look for it? And everybody's like, no. And I was like, okay, well, we're gonna look for it. And so I started looking for it, and I found kind of this series of all these other clues and relics that I thought were leading me to the deed.
Yeah.
And then about part 6, halfway through,
Yeah.
I was like, no, there's something different here. I don't know why you would do this for just the deed we're looking for something else here. And so
Yeah.
everybody's like, the deed. And I was like, there's something more hefty here. So I ended up continuing to find all the series of all these other clues. And I ended up finding a lithograph that was hidden in our barn,
Oh my
which was
God.
an original Currier and Ives.
What?
Yeah. And actually, so there was this crazy story about my great grandfather Albert purchasing 3 original Currier and Ives lithographs from a peddler at dirt cheap before he got famous.
Whoa.
He sold 2 and apparently kept 1, and they can be worth up to $100,000. So
thanks, Gramps.
yeah, so thanks for
Wow.
that.
And you found it, like you have it. in
So
your
the
possession
interesting
now.
part was the one that I found was actually a reprint, but the reprints are still valuable. It was reprinted early. So the reprint is worth less, but it's still very valuable.
Oh my
And
God.
so I started asking my family and I was like, what is this all about? And so that's how a story eventually did surface about Albert and the peddler. And I was like, well, where is the lithograph? If
Yeah.
he kept one, who has it? And then it was like a real life treasure hunt in my family with everybody calling each other, trying to figure out who had it. It
Oh
was
my
wild.
God.
We were all like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Like, does somebody have it and not know what it is? And that's exactly what happened. My cousin who lives in Arizona had the lithograph in storage, and it was handed down to her from her mother, who is my aunt, who I'm not even sure if my aunt knew what it was. But my Aunt Carol, who's, she was the one who knew what it was, but she was like, I can't, we don't know where it is. And it ended up being
Yeah.
my cousin in Arizona who sent me a picture, and she's like, are you talking about this? And I was like, yes, get
Wait.
it out of, like, it's valuable.
So you have a copy of the lithograph.
I have a copy of one
And
of the
your
lithographs.
cousin has the original?
Yeah.
So together,
In like a
you've
framed
got...
gold frame.
Oh my
like,
God.
Very official. And as soon as
Stop
I
it.
saw it, I was like, that's it. That is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But she didn't even know. She was like, my mom gave it to me. I've had it in storage. She was like, what is it? I was like, oh my God.
And so
my God.
the logical next step here is you guys are going to go on Antiques Roadshow now. No.
Yeah, oh my God. Well, it's funny. I've been talking to a few independent film companies who are like, have you considered making this like a TV show? Or
Yeah.
would you be on like HGTV or History Channel? And I'm like, I don't even know. This has not finished. So I was like, I can't even think about that
No,
right
that's
now.
exactly what ran through my head though, is like you have this story that is being concocted around you, this mystery that
Yeah.
a lot of us have seen a version of on television.
Right.
And it's like so funny that like you're a real person that lives like in our town, and this is happening to you like live right now.
Right now. Like it is unfinished.
You're still in the middle of it.
Middle.
Yeah.
And so I tried to wrap the deer. I'm sorry, I'm going on about this, but
No, I love it.
I tried to wrap the series with the lithograph, and the followers that I have were not having it, and they were like,
They
"Take
were
a
like,
break,
"Get the
and
deed."
get it, get back to work." So now we're in the middle of the second season, basically, which is the medium series. So I hired a
I
medium.
know. Yeah.
and she's come, and I'm basically have just been chunking up everything that she said and
Okay.
releasing that as the new season.
All right.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I'm a total skeptic when it comes to that stuff.
Okay.
What was it like with the medium though?
It was really cool.
I'm interested.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I come from a very like strict Christian family.
Yeah.
So my parents were like not really interested, and so they went to church, and I had the medium come. Yeah, and they got home from church as she was leaving.
Yeah.
and it was just kind of like a. Right
Like
past it.
did they like eye each other?
They said good morning.
Oh,
And I was
nice.
like-
Oh,
I
nice.
was-
That's pleasant.
My best friend was there, and I was like, "Whew, that was smooth transition. Okay, we're good."
Jesus be with you. Like,
Yes, it was very, but my mom, I had a good time talking with her about it, because my mom, I think, is a little bit more like me, which is the spiritual side, being like,
Okay.
she's Christian and everything, and I was raised Christian, but I'm kind of a little bit more spiritual, thinking like, we don't really know what happens after death. Okay.
Yeah.
So nobody's right.
Yeah.
And nobody can know. And so I've had definitely very spooky things happen to me before
Okay.
at the farm. So it made me interested to talk with a medium, because I'm like, I've gotten feelings and things have happened before that are like, so when she came, there were things that she was not on about, and there were
Okay.
things that she was extremely on about.
Yeah.
So it's a variety. And some of those things are like, okay, well, you could have guessed that. And then some of the things that she said, I'm like, nope, you would have no way of knowing that information. And it was
Yeah.
very specific.
Yeah, she said something about like there was like an old lady who had like
Yes.
teeth problems
Yes.
and like
So a couple of people in the comments had been like, "Oh, that's speculation of like old people problems." And I agreed.
Nah.
But what really got me was that she mentioned something about apples. And actually, I plan on doing a series on her because she has this whole story about how she escaped Germany in World War II.
Oh my
She almost
God.
died like 5 times. So she has a wild story. But she has this very specific way that she taught my mom and I how to peel an apple.
Yeah.
Because she knew hunger during World War II and almost starved to death. And when you peeled an apple, you didn't leave any whites on the peel. And she used to smack my mother's hands, and she used to smack my hands if I left too much apple on the peel or potato on the peel. So that was considered being wasteful.
Oh my God.
And so we'd get in trouble for that. And when she mentioned that, I looked over at my best friend because my best friend knows that story too. And we were just both like,
you're like, girl.
that's her, dude. That's her.
Oh my God. So you don't so much own a plot of land as you own a plot device, really.
Yeah, apparently. Like
where
a
we're
portal. Yeah, a portal. I know. And she said she comes and she goes. I'm like, is this a portal to like the underworld? Like,
Title of the
this place?
podcast. He does this every episode.
Every episode. Well, I was gonna say something else earlier. I was gonna, as you were talking about like like CBD and growing stuff, I was gonna go CBD, NBD.
And Ben.
Damn it, they're both so good.
They're so good. NBD.
So you, apart from all of these stories, right?
Right.
We could, any of these could be like a whole hour of us talking about them.
Oh, yeah.
But
sure.
apart from these, you yourself are interesting, and that's what we're here to talk about.
Thank you.
You're, as I said earlier, right? As I said,
Casually winks at himself.
On the camera.
as I said earlier, like to you in the kitchen, you were an upstate girl, right?
Yeah.
You were living on a farm. You're out there in Salem,
Right.
Hebron, really.
Right.
And then you go to the city and you become a model, and that's the movie that we all see.
Right.
And then you came back to run a farm, and that's the movie that we don't see.
Right.
So, can you take us on that transition a little bit verbally?
Sure.
Can you tell us that story of like going there, coming back?
Right.
Yeah, starting
Now
your own
I'm
business.
kind of in between. Yeah, I go to the city once a month. So now
Oh, great.
I'm split 50-50.
Would you say it's a happy medium?
Wow. Wow.
That was it. That's your cap on dad
sorry.
jokes
All
for
right,
the
I'm
entire
Are you
episode.
done?
No, I'm
Are you
done.
good?
I'm done.
Never
I'm done.
done.
Oh my God.
Never done.
That's okay. I'm here for it. I love dad jokes. I'm for it. Okay,
All right.
so yes, so I got scouted at a gas station when I was 18 out of Stewart's, which is why I'm such a big advocate for them, and I try to throw them a bone when I can on TikTok because I love Stewart's.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
And so I got scouted there, and then I just not gotten into college for the programs that I wanted to. And when that modeling opportunity came up, I was like, well, why not? Because I don't want to go to college just to go to college, and I didn't get into any of the programs I wanted. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So right after graduation, moved to the city, modeled professionally for like a little over a year. But that was extremely demanding. I was never skinny enough. There were weight restrictions that I was not meeting. Like a very big thing, and this has changed because that was about 8 years ago, but a big thing was 34-inch hip rule, basically, which like naturally, even at the time as an 18-year-old, I was like a 36-inch hip.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any fat on me even. So
Right.
it was just like my bone structure. But they would measure me once a week, and I was just constantly not meeting the inch hip thing.
Oh my
and so
God.
and a lot of girls weren't. After about a year of that, I was like, I have to go. So I auditioned. I saw an advertisement for SUNY Purchase, their like an opera program on the side
yeah.
of like a bus stop when I was in Westchester. And I was like, oh, that looks fun. So I went to one of their operas and I sat through it and I was like, I want to do this. And I had been studying classically since the age of 9.
Music.
So, music, yeah.
Wow.
So I had been singing classically since the age of 9, and I auditioned, in high school for classical programs, but I did not get in to any of these programs. One of the issues was, long story short, I had basically my own strain of strep throat on my tonsils, and I was constantly sick. And so once I got my tonsils removed, I was like all better. And
you
my
could
voice
sing.
was better, and I could sing better, and I was more reliable, and I was sick for all my college auditions. So I auditioned for SUNY Purchase, and I got it. And they were like, yep, we love you. Let's go. You're in. And I was
Whoa.
like, okay. And it was a very selective program, too.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to quit modeling. I'm going to go to college. because I was like, I'm never going to be
Which is
skinny
not
enough.
what you hear.
Yes.
You hear the opposite all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People think that modeling is very glamorous, and it is if you are naturally that thin. But if you're not, you have to watch everything that you eat. You constantly have to be working out. You're going to like 20 castings a day, and sometimes, not booking any jobs. Like it's exhausting. It's demanding.
Yeah.
People don't really realize that.
It's like so many other things that we have in our culture where like everybody looks at like the top 1-2% and they're like, oh my God, look at how that lifestyle is. And like there's like the other 98% of the people in that profession that are like, it's not like that. And they're like, no, it is.
It's
look.
like that.
Yeah.
People were confused when I quit. And I was like, well, you don't know.
I mean, it sounds so mentally, mentally and emotionally arduous too.
Yeah, it was. When I got to college, I was not eating. I wasn't eating, and if I was eating, I was trying to throw it up. So so basically, freshman year was an extreme transition between you go to freshman year and you're like nervous and trying to make friends anyway. But I was like, hi, I want to make friends because I have none, but I also don't eat and I have to sing, 10 hours a day, and nobody really knew that. So then me freshman year was trying to figure out like, okay, we have to be eating, like this is a big issue, and other people were kind of like starting to notice. Like one of my best friends freshman year was like, you look not good. And I was like, okay.
I don't know.
Like I feel not good. Did you say that?
Yeah.
Personal anecdote. I don't know if you remember. My wife is Mackenzie Parrish.
Yes.
You guys have met, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a huge advocate for eating disorder recovery.
Yeah.
She has also struggled with it as well. And it's like, so in our house, it's like a really, really big thing. Like we have a lot of we put a lot of emotional energy into like that part of the world.
Yeah.
Talking about it, being open about it. And and the ways that you have to navigate that like slippery slope in your head of the way that you talk to yourself and the way that you measure and score, and everything has a value, and if you do things the wrong way, it's really tough. So I respect the hell out of it.
That's
out of the recovery.
She's spot on with that. The voice in the head.
Yes.
That's what'll get you.
And as helpful as I'm sure you can be as a husband, like there's only so much you can do if the voice in her head is saying something else at the same time. Yeah,
your inner monologue can really trick you into thinking so many things. And that's kind of what modeling did. It was like over a year of being like, you need to be this. And then me getting to college and everybody being like, no. And me being like, oh. Okay. So that's pretty much how that happened. But then after college, I graduated and I moved to Westchester, and I was kind of going on the audition run, like with singing, just trying to get my singing career off the ground. And my farm got the opportunity to grow with the New York State Hemp Pilot Research Program. And I thought, I love the farm, and it's been handed down to all the sons in the generation. My brother didn't really show a lot of interest in that. And so we kind of started thinking, well, if it's going to stay in the family, it needs to start working. It needs to start having a purpose, because it's been private since like probably the 70s at this point. Wow. And it's a huge undertaking. So it needs to be working. If it's working, you know what they say, if it's working, it stays cleaned up. It's like, right.
Yep.
So prior to you coming in and you got the license to grow hemp in New York State, was it a vegetable garden? What was it? How was it being used even privately, or was it just kind of overgrown? And
it was, it was like just a managed like property basically. So I mean, there's a lot of like lawn care that goes into it.
Sure.
But then the fields were being outsourced to other farmers, so they were renting, and other farmers were like planting corn and stuff like that. So it was being active, but we weren't really bringing in any money on that. We got like taxation cuts, which was good. If we're farming, we get tax cuts. Yeah. And because we have so much land, we're constantly trying to get tax cuts for like agriculture, forestry. We have 98 acres. It's very expensive.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So, and most of it is woodlands. So we only have about...
so you've got like a box to grow in, and then you've got to like pay for the rest as well.
Yes, if you stand at the end of the driveway, basically our property is a basin. So we own South Hill, which is a huge like hill mountain forest. And then you look to the right and we've got the Pinnacle side, which is mountain forest. And then at the bottom, there's a couple fields where we are.
That's nice, because you get a lot of water runoff.
We do. We get a lot of water.
The benefit there is you actually have good soil.
We do. That field right back next to the house is an amazing field, because it's constantly getting the nutrients too that it brings down from everywhere.
Let's talk a little bit about agriculture and cannabis science. That's something that you and I are really interested to talk to Iris about.
I love agriculture and science.
Right.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
you're more the agriculture guy. I know you have a lot of questions. I almost just want to like sit back and like watch you guys talk and like learn.
Okay.
Well, I have about a year's worth of cannabis growing experience from working in California.
Okay.
I have some friends who are growing in Oklahoma right now, and of course, like agriculture is something that's rife in the upstate area. Most people, when they think of upstate, still think of like White Plains, but but we're upstate. We're proper upstate where farms happen.
Yeah, farms happen.
The thing that I kind of wanted to get into, like with you, is so you grow primarily hemp for CBD production.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you give us a basic step-by-step process of like what that looks like for you as a farmer?
Yep. So my season starts now in April, and that's when I start doing all the fertilization and getting the land ready. Plants go in usually, I seed them next week, and then the seedlings will go in the second weekend of June. And then basically, they're chill for a while. I have an irrigation system that I can feed them through. So that's basically that. For about 4 to 6 weeks, I kind of just like let them adjust because there's like a shock from going from the greenhouse to the ground. So you kind of have to baby them just a little bit, keep an eye on them. But then it's about like 4 to 6 weeks of just letting them chill. And then, my day throughout the summer and the entire season is basically like topping, trimming, weeding, feeding.
How much trimming?
Yeah, last year, I was experimenting with trimming last year, and I found, this is what I found. I think a lot of farmers in New York State are going crazy with hemp, and they're just putting their seedlings in the ground, and they're growing like thousands of acres or hundreds of acres. And what I was experiencing last year, I did 5 acres my first year, and the plants were a pretty decent size, but the bud give off was not as voluptuous as it looked like it could have been. I was like, these are big plants, but I feel like they could be fuller. It's a lot of leaf. And so last year I was experiencing, we went hard on trimming, and I was doing it. Because they get shocked again, so you have to let them recover.
And by trimming, you're talking about removing leaves periodically as you're going through the growing season.
Yes. Yeah. And so one of the things, I'm trimming, you're removing those fan leaves, not all of them.
Nope.
But we were, so it's a lot of back work and on your knees and stuff, especially and outside on the ground. Basically trimming like the underskirt of the plant to encourage, it's like trees, right? Like to encourage the tree to push all of its resources and nutrients out towards the bud.
Yeah.
So we did that, and they would, be in shock. And so you feed. And then after like a week or two, it's time to trim again, like haircut season. You're just going out there.
But you're going from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And you're trying to keep the fan leaves, because there's the double-edged sword of like the fan leaves are taking in sunlight.
Right.
So they're helping with energy production. Yeah. And they're helping like
they're feeding
that metabolism. Yeah. But at the same time, some of them got to go.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the underskirt ones that were in the inside of the plant, we keep the outside ones because exactly what it said, that's the way they're feeding. But then the inside ones are taking up energy. You don't need them there. And so trimming them off is almost just like also helping airflow for the plant to get air.
Yep.
And cutting out unnecessary X-source resourcing, to the rest of the plant.
Yeah, out in California, we had certain strains of cannabis that would grow up really tall, and then they would produce good colas, but not everywhere. Right. So toward the end of the season, our trimming we actually referred to as lollipopping, because they would end up looking like lollipops.
Yeah, it's lollipopping. Yeah, especially because then that's what you want. You want the colas, especially towards the top of the plant. Those are the ones that are the most rich and full of stuff, and not so much on the under. So you go on you lollipop, and it's
got that stuff that you want.
Right.
Good stuff.
The good stuff.
Yeah. That good.
That good stuff.
Wait, just to clarify, a cola. Define a cola.
That is the most people would refer to them more commonly as buds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they're real big though.
Okay.
Like you know how like you would have that kid in high school who'd be like, yeah, I got some buds. Look at how big this nug is. Like we're talking like 20 times that size.
Oh wow.
Yeah. On one thing. Like that kid got like a tiny share of it that would probably like with some oregano in the bag at the same time.
Oh,
and like
sure.
Yeah. I have a picture right on my homepage of my website. You can kind of see I'm walking in the field and like pulling one down. Yeah. It's like a huge kind of branch.
Yeah. One really cool thing that I wanted to touch on that we kind of talked about. So you actually you have an advantage in the growing season on your farm because you have that natural runoff. you have a natural well, I'm assuming, as
do.
well. And so you have a lot of water that you just have available
Yeah.
and ready for those plants. You're not actually pulling from the land around you. A big problem that we're running into in California is people pulling from the land around them,
Yeah.
drying out the land.
Right.
And then they have these crazy forest fires, but that's
Right.
because they're not using basin water, and they're like, people are constantly trucking in water
Right.
for certain crops.
It's crazy. Yeah, we do pull from. We have a creek across the road, so we do have an
Even more
irrigation.
helpful.
And yeah, and it's great. It's been the beavers have been extremely helpful. They've dammed it up. So, except I have a love-hate relationship with them because
Yeah.
the creek didn't used to be as big there, so I wouldn't have been able to pull water there maybe like 20 years ago because it was pretty shallow. But they've dammed it on both sides, so I have this like big, huge pile of water that I can draw from, which is amazing. That was kind of crazy because we have to pump it under the road up the side of the house to the plants, and so
Wow.
it takes a lot of horsepower from that pump. But then also the beavers are great, but they also chew on the pump that's in the water. They're like, this is not supposed to be here. I'm gonna chew on it.
So they attack it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I've been having a love-hate where I'm like, if you guys don't stop chewing on this, I'm going to have to do something about you. And I don't
my
want to do
God.
that because you've been helpful and your dams are here.
Yeah.
But you can't be chewing on like a $2,000 pipe. So
Yep. They've given you that natural lock. that you
yeah, a
can
natural
use.
lock
Yeah.
of like a rich resource of water and all the
Wow.
nutrients that come from the creek. You know,
Yeah.
breakdown of fish, you got sand, all that stuff. It's going into the plants, natural feeding, which is really great.
Yeah, and in coffee, this is something that people would want for their property as well. You know, a lot of coffee's tiered on hills. It's on the side of mountains
yeah.
for that reason.
Yeah.
So that you get that runoff, you know.
Right.
And, you know, coffee's obviously grown at different elevations.
Right.
What we're talking about right now, your height above sea level is not crazy.
No,
up
it's only
here.
500.
Yeah.
I'm only 500, yeah.
Yep. And you don't need much when you're growing CBD.
No, not a lot. Yeah.
How did you learn all of these techniques and understanding how irrigation works, for instance? Like, even, you know, as a guy who, like, I'm a I'm a self-proclaimed like plant dad because I've got like 5 plants that haven't died yet upstairs, and I'm like, plant dad.
Plant dad.
How do you come from the city, you know, doing modeling? You come back, you start growing on this farm. There are so many techniques, labor concepts. How do you
Right.
find all those? Is it something that you kind of like halfway absorbed through your family over time, or is it like you learned it all immediately, like as you were like,
Oh, yeah. Did you do this as a kid?
Yeah. I mean, so growing up on the farm, it was just kind of, I think my work ethic started very young because I didn't have a choice. You know,
Sure,
there
yeah.
were things to do.
Yeah.
So, and also I feel really blessed to have lived not through the age of technology as a child. So there, you know, we did not watch a lot of TV. We got Saturday morning cartoons. And then besides that, my mom would literally kick us out of the house and would say, don't come back inside until dinner. I just don't want you in here.
Yep.
And so with the farm, it was very important. My siblings and I had to self-entertain, and it's like they were a little bit older than me, and I was always bothering them. But we all self-entertained. We had chalk, and we had bubbles, and we had bikes and basketball, and so we were just always outside working or playing. And starting that too, I got a job. My parents were the caretakers of the cemetery down the road, which actually used to be the land in our family originally. And so my family, a couple generations back, started becoming the caretakers, and we've just caretaked for it. And so I started working there when I was like 13.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
So the idea of pumping water from a basin down below to, you know, across the road or whatever to your land, that wasn't like foreign to you? Because to
No,
me,
I
I'm like,
just-
whoa, like
No,
how do you
it-
know how to do all that stuff?
Well, and I didn't. And to be honest, like I got to give a huge shout out to all the other farmers who are in the area. What I do love about it is that I grew up as a farmhand too. I worked for like Merck Forest National Farmland Center. I worked for, Slack Hollow in Argyle. I worked for Echo Creek in Salem. Like I've just been working
yeah.
as a farmhand, picking vegetables, washing them, like packaging them. I've done that.
Yeah.
And I liked it because I liked being outside and I'm an active person. So just the work ethic has been been there. I've just always done that. And so when I came back, that work ethic was not foreign to me, but I didn't have a lot of the information. And so the best thing I had to just like, one thing you have to do is just like swallow your pride and ask the people who know.
Totally.
And so I have a couple cousins who are farmers. You know, there was Vat and Kill Creamery. There's Garden Works in West Hebron. She's my cousin too. And Meg Sutherland. And I just started asking everybody questions, and they were just willing enough to give me information and advice. And I think that's the most important thing, if I could tell anybody, because I've seen other people with other businesses I've worked with want to be the one with the ego. And if you can tell yourself, like, if you can check yourself and tell yourself, you don't know anything, you don't know anything and you're not an expert, go ask for help, then you'll be able to soar with plenty of information. And so that's basically what happened. I just started asking a ton of questions, and now it feels like it's just a routine. It's a habit. Now I just know. So
yeah, there's a lot of front end work when it comes to setting up a farm.
Right.
And then a lot of that afterwards is kind of maintaining the schedule.
Yes, exactly.
You know, making sure you're a little bit ahead of any problems you could be having in the near future. Yeah.
Right. I'm still like, I'm still a baby farmer. There's a lot I do not know. In fact, I was just asking somebody the other day about nitrogen levels in the soil, and like that's something that I'm like, well, you know, our tests were positive and they were high, so how do I balance that out? And it's still, every year is different. You got to ask a lot of questions. You got to be able to adapt with what things like soil tests give you back, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you guys grab any fish out of, this is kind of like a nerdy farm question, do you guys grab any fish out of the creek and then use them for some of your compost at
Not
any point?
really, no.
Okay.
We have, because of the beavers and cranes, we tend to not take anything out of the creek because we like the wildlife, and we have bald eagles too. So my dad likes to fish down there, but no, we don't take anything down there. But the pump filter is running at the bottom of the creek. It's anchored. So it's picking up silt and stuff, which is all rich nutrients. So, and then I do have an irrigation mezzi feeder. So I can also, I mix up a feed of seaweed and other like composted materials, and like a juice basically, and feed them through that as well.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, one of the people that I'm really interested in getting on the podcast eventually is Loving Earth compost, because that's going to be a new industry in this area soon.
I use Loving Earth compost.
He's got the sign outside. It says I heart compost.
I think I saw a bag that said compost.
Probably.
Compost,
Where's this guy?
For compost.
Because coffee is a very good composting.
Coffee's great.
To know. Okay.
And apparently it's really great in soil if you have plants that require higher acidity in their soil content. Coffee is a highly acidic compound, so you can really, it depends on the plant. Somebody told me like my bushes outside would be great, but also like then there's me, plant dad, right? like looking at my bushes going like, so do I just like sprinkle some coffee on this shit, or like what?
See,
you know what I mean?
See, you've got an inkling though. You're getting there. You're gonna be a farmer by next year, man.
Dude, it's
gonna be great.
It's so funny. I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's okay. You just have to try things out. I mean, nobody knows anything.
We're gonna have Fifestead coffee beds.
Ooh,
that's there.
Better trademark that.
There we go.
Fifestead coffee beds.
So one thing that I really wanted to...
I'm going to shut this off. Otherwise, that was a half hour. They're going to be hard to send.
Oh, God, right?
Actually...
Also, is that a coffee bean in front of you?
Yes, it is.
Let's record one more time.
Okay.
Hit record one more time, because this is a really...
Sure.
The next question I'm about to ask is really... This is what I really wanted to get into.
Okay.
All right.
Wait.
Are you good?
Almost.
Technology's hard.
Got it.
Technology's so hard.
Yep.
All right. Here's what I really wanted to like talk to you about. There's one thing that I really love doing on this podcast, and that we've done for ourselves and for other people, is clear up misconceptions.
Right.
You grow CBD.
I grow hemp.
Well, so you grow hemp. You have CBD products.
Yes.
Right? CBD is a natural compound, correct?
Yes.
Could you break down for our listeners what CBD is? Because there are so many people who still have no idea. They're like, what do you mean? Weed?
Right.
Like,
Yes. Oh, well, and that's why, sorry, I corrected you, but I hate when people say, you grow CBD. I'm like, I do not. I grow hemp. I cannot grow CBD.
CBD exists in
hemp
the hemp.
In the hemp that I grow. Yeah.
You were saying you still have a processing place.
So you have to, CBD is one of the many other, cannabinoids in cannabis. And I always try to explain to people who are confused when they ask about the difference, hemp and marijuana. I always try to explain, okay, it's like tigers and lions, right? They are cats. they are different cats.
Yes.
So it's just like apples, you have different strains of apples. You have different strains of hemp and marijuana.
Yes.
And so basically, when you think about marijuana, what do you think of?
I think of cannabis.
I think of THC.
What's the component?
Oh, THC.
That's the component you think of.
Tetrahydrocannabinol.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's in the spotlight. And basically with cannabis, they have all these other cannabinoids that are, people aren't really focused on because we've been so focused on THC, that you can manipulate the seeds of cannabis plants to create different strains to put one of those other cannabinoids in the spotlight.
Yes.
So to make THC take a back seat and put something else forward. And I think that's what a lot of people aren't realizing. So that's basically what hemp is. It's genetically engineered seeds, just like you would for apples and oranges and tomatoes. You have different kinds. So you have genetically engineered seeds that are putting different cannabinoids in the spotlight.
Yes.
So that's what CBD is. Now CBD is in the spotlight and THC is still there, but it's been genetically modified to really push those levels down. So you are not going to get those psychoactive side effects of being quotation marks high.
Right.
But CBD, and all these other cannabinoids that make up the plant have different benefits to them. So CBD is very well known for reducing anxiety and stress because it's also a natural muscle relaxer. It's naturally great for pain and inflammation because it brings down inflammation. So a lot of people were like, oh, this will fix my pain. And it's like, well, if you have a lot of inflammation that's causing pain, yes. And so that's why it's not a one size fits all. It doesn't work for everybody the same. And it's funny because it's also one of those homeopathic remedies that people are like, it didn't work for me. Like I was taking it for anxiety and it didn't work for me, but I've never slept better in my life. I'm like, well, you're sleeping better because you're not anxious.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
So people kind of don't realize that. I'm like, you still might be anxious throughout the day with your normal like work stuff and it's not going to remove anxiety. But that's the one I get the most like, it didn't work for anxiety, but I slept so well.
Yeah.
Well, you're sleeping better because you're not anxious. Like your brain is shut
it's not like weed can actively it's not like CBD can actively like just jump in when you're feeling anxious in an everyday scenario and be like, get out of here. Like it doesn't,
I took this product and I didn't turn into Bob Marley. So I'm feeling like it's probably just a farce.
Well, that's what I have to explain constantly. I'm like, it's not a trend or a fad because it did help you. It just probably didn't help you in the way that you were expecting.
Right.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like there's a lot of, you were saying before, there's a lot of education that needs to be done going forward. Like you're constantly coming up with the same question because everyone's learning right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Removing that stigma.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what it got. It got a blanket stigma.
Right.
It being grouped in with, these tigers got grouped in with lions for so long, that the stigma
until somebody
just
was
stuck.
like, wait a minute, I think these might be different cats.
Yeah.
Right.
I have so curiosity from my perspective is there are different CBD products out there. Some of them claim to have 0 THC. Tell us a little bit about that whole not only just like the marketing behind it, but actually the science. Is it truly, can you get products? Can you isolate CBD by itself, put it into a product and have 0 THC? Yeah,
I'm so glad you asked me about this because I was just talking to somebody else about this the other day. You can. So there are different ways of processing hemp. Basically, when you do that, when you're processing hemp, you're extracting the plant fats and like the plant like liquid, basically, you would say, but there's a scientific way to do that in a lab. You need very specific equipment for it. And when you're doing that, it goes through several rounds of filtering. Like when you first have I did a TikTok video on this, and when you first, the first thing that comes out is like this plant extract. It's got fats and it's got all the cannabinoids, all the rich stuff, but then you have to remove the plant fats. Otherwise, it's just going to become like this solid, gooey thing that you don't want.
It'll congeal.
Yeah, it's congealing. So it goes through several rounds of removal, and then past that, it can go through even more removal. Like you have things that are full spectrum, and then you have things that are isolates. And so isolate means that the THC has been completely removed. And this is okay. And that THC is such a slight sliver that it's not going to get you high. It's not going to psychologically impair you anyway. Maybe if you drank an entire bottle at once, you might pass out too, because that's a lot of CBD and you might just hit the floor and go to sleep.
Right.
Like you might just sleep for like 24 hours, you know? So you're not going to take a whole bottle of CBD, but removing that slight, I have a problem with removing that slight amount of THC. People who are looking for isolate products without the THC have a problem with this because you're not getting a better bang for your buck, because when you remove the THC away from the CBD, the benefits are not going to be as good as they could be, because, and this is the science part behind it, CBD and THC are almost like peanut butter and jelly, and when you remove one from the other, they can't chemically react with one another.
Yeah, that's kind of there's a little bit of a linkage there between that and like decaffeinated coffee. When you decaffeinate coffee, there are definitely different chemical methods to pulling the caffeine compound out of a coffee bean.
Oh yeah.
But when you do that, you're always pulling other things with it, usually sugars and different levels of complexity in the flavor profile out of the coffee, so that it is not as effective. Well, it's not that it's not as effective, but it's certainly
not as flavorful.
Not as flavorful as it could be.
Yeah.
You're pulling some of the goodness out. Now, we're not pulling an extra chemical necessarily out that in your case, you're talking about two chemicals. Pulling one out is making the other sort of less effective. Is that the way?
You have two cannabinoids and they react against each other with the receptors in your brain to cause effects.
Okay.
So when you are removing one, and even people don't even realize that, but with marijuana has CBD in it.
Sure.
It just has a slight amount, but that slight amount, it adds to the benefits of THC and the reaction you get from it.
Yeah.
So when you are removing THC from CBD products, I tell people, I don't have people ask me like, oh, well, I have a job and I might get tested. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have isolate products and that's not something I'm going to carry, because you're going to be paying me for something that's probably not going to benefit you as well as it could be. And I don't feel good about that. I hate when I see isolate products on the shelves, because I'm like, no, that's like giving me a piece of bread with just a little bit of jam on it and calling it a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's just not correct. So
it's people who want to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Like that's where that demand comes from, marketing, like market wise.
Yeah, I want my cake and eating it.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, people want to have CBD products that don't have THC in them at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And I understand why, you're getting tested. I get it. But until that changes, that might not be a product that you want to look into, because you can go and find isolate products. You're going to be paying a lot of money for something that isn't working for you as well.
Yeah. Does it also cost more to have an isolate product? Like,
I don't actually know because I don't carry them, but I think it's more of a process to extract.
Right.
It's another step, which the more processing that you do, the more expensive.
That's generally what I would have.
Yeah, that's a good guess. I would guess that it's probably more expensive for an isolate, and it's going to do less.
Right.
Which is so many things in the health realm are like that, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I want to be so specific with it that I'm going to spend extra money on it, and then you're not getting as much as you thought you were.
And it's very confusing because I've found people who just like disagree with me too. It's crazy. And like the hemp and cannabis, like everybody thinks they're an expert, right? So I could be saying things that are wrong, but I've had people debate with me about this where I'm like, no, I feel like there's a lot of things about the endocannabinoid system on the internet right now. It's very hot. And so if you do reading, you will find it says that what is speculated is that, and it's not something that like you are going to find like a confirmed answer on the internet saying like, yes, do not remove, do not do isolate, that kind of thing. But everything that I've read about the endocannabinoid system talks about isolates and how there's the speculation that because they chemically react with one another, THC and CBD, that when you remove one, the benefits aren't as strong.
Gotcha.
It's a little hard to prove that right? Because we're so new in this industry right now.
That's what I was about to say. It's new science.
It's new science.
Right. And we've talked about this on the podcast before with another. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
And so
that was good.
So we've talked about this on the podcast with another guest. We had this a very long conversation. I think it was regarding like the political climate that we are in, but the idea of being able to say, I could be wrong, but what I understand
Devin.
is
We
X,
talked about
Y,
this
Z.
with Devin, yeah.
Right. I think that's super important no matter where you are, because this entire concept of like learning and growing and doing something and acknowledging that you're not the expert.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm not.
He always
I do it every episode. I seriously, because It's on airplane too this time. I'm just used to doing that because so many times we'll be midway through an episode and my phone will vibrate, and then I go like this and I throw it because I'm like, no, I don't want to interact with you right now.
Right.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. So I think it's really really important to look at any business venture, any growth period, with transparency and honesty and like swallowing your pride. I mean, like, I'm really interested in this thing. I know that there are people out there who have been learning this, looking at this, researching this, living this a lot longer than I have, and being able to openly be like, I want to learn, just like you said about learning how to farm, learning more about cannabis science.
Right.
And I think it's so important to have what is that word? It's like
you have
humility.
Humbleness. You have to be humble.
Yeah.
I've worked with people before who have not been, and I think that's when I started to really kind of realize that in 2019 when I was like in the middle of it, and we were having we had a terrible second year. Our crop failed our second year.
No way.
8,000 plants died.
What
8,000.
happened? Did you have a pest come in, or
no? It was it was just it was really dry. The soil didn't have a lot of oxygen in it, so we had it plowed, and then it was compacted by a lot of rain. And then the plugs were root bound and they died, all of them. So that was the year that I was like, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was bad. And so I had to do that. You just get like a little humble humility check, and you're like, you need to go learn because you don't know anything.
Yeah.
And you do know some stuff, and that's good, but you got a lot more to learn, and you got to go do it.
Yeah.
That's what we're built on.
Yeah.
Here in our business is Kevin said this one time, and I thought it really resonated. It's like our whole kind of model, especially from a social media standpoint, is like we want to do this in like a punk rock way, where like we know that we have a lot to learn, and like everybody out there on the internet, like you get to like watch us fishbowl style learn how to run a business.
Yeah.
Two dudes who don't know what they're doing,
right? Yep.
figuring it out.
Yep. A lot of people like that too because it's authentic and transparent. You know, I'm also trying to do that, and it's been kind of hard with TikTok because some people are so invested with the Deed series that I'm just like, okay, but I do these other things. And so that's kind of what I try to do on Instagram of like, okay, this is the process, and you get people who are invested and who are going to stick around. But yeah, I think people do like watching the story of how a business is made, like how people see that 1 to 2 top percent, and you're like, oh, and you're like, but I was over here for a really long time struggling, and there was a process to how I got where I am.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times someone cites like now successful business and they're like, they were on Shark Tank, and I'm like, all right, cool. So you saw them after they already had a following, already got accepted by a TV show, pretty much knew that their product was going to be accepted by someone else.
Right, exactly.
like Shark Tank is kind of like, it's a curated experience for people to feel good about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Shark Tank for that reason.
Same.
Have you guys ever listened to How I Built This, though, the podcast?
Yes.
I've heard of it. I have not listened to it.
I would strongly recommend it because it's also
good.
just going to like help your soul too. You listen to people who are super successful and you're like, oh, can I swear on here?
Totally.
Yeah.
You were so fucked for so long. Like you almost like lost your house, should have probably been in prison, like on the run, fucked. And then overnight something happened, and it's just, it kind of goes like that.
Right. And you've seen all of the classic entrepreneurial, like, you know, sort of inspirational photos that are like, you know, Oprah got denied until she was 30 something, and you know, all of the people that we associate with success were fucked for a long time. Yeah.
I love the story about Sarah.
J.K. Rowling.
Oh, well, that too. Yes, I love her story. But I love
she's
the story.
canceled now.
She's canceled. She's a little canceled now. Time for another story. For another time. But yes, I love Sarah Bentley, who is the owner of Spanx, because she owns, first of all, 100% of her equity.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Very cool.
She started Spanx, and she wasn't, I wouldn't say she was like fucked, but she was really grinding for a while, and she had to do the dirty work of basically going door to door, looking up phone numbers in the yellow pages, like really annoying people, like kind of being like, she admits it on the podcast, I was like a little bit of a stalker for a bit there. Like she was doing the, you call it like embarrassing work.
Yeah.
Of like, I have something, I know is really good,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna go be embarrassed because I need to get it out there, and that's like annoying people and calling people. She made the person from like Newman, I forget, some major store, Newman and Marcus, or some major store. She like made the salesperson that she was talking to. She had like a 5-minute meeting, and they only had 5 minutes, and she was like, "Okay, just go to the bathroom. I need you to put the Spanx on."
Oh.
And the person was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, let's just go to the bathroom.
Just put them on.
Put them on." And
Yeah.
then she put them on, and she was like, "Oh," and she was like, "Yeah." And then
Yeah.
things changed. But then she was crazy. She had like two.
Oh my gosh.
They put her product in the wrong part of the store, so she dressed up like an employee.
No.
Because they wouldn't move it, and she went and put
And
them in
moved
the
it.
and moved it. I mean, the
Whoa.
embarrassing work.
I haven't listened to that episode.
You got to. It's so
Oh
good.
my God.
That really makes me like that gives me a little bit of like, I mean, hope, but also it really kicks my ass because like I have a hard time even reaching out to like friends or family or just people
it's
like
hard.
that I know and be like, hey, look, like I got a couple extra bags of coffee. It's really, really good. I want to make sure this coffee gets out like into people's hands.
Yeah.
You need some coffee. I feel like bad because
You
I'm
do.
not a
Yeah.
salesman.
There's
at
like
heart.
shame to it for
A
sure.
little bit, yeah, because you just want in this internet age, you just want people to like love your brand and be hyped about whatever you're selling, and just
Right.
have you be like, hey, I get, like put out one story, be like, coffee's for sale, and then boom, it's gone. You know,
Right.
that's the ideal, but that's not how it works.
Well,
Especially
no.
at first.
I've got a good analogy for this too. You know what it's like, because I was gonna say we're kind of in that phase where we have to be embarrassed now. Like
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah.
go through that. We're at that point.
Right.
Are you at that point?
I
You feel like you're kind of at that
I'm
point?
still there.
Yeah.
Before the TikTok series, I was very much there, and my investor John is like constantly would be on the phone with me like once a week, being like, you have to remove that layer. You have to get over it.
Yep.
Because I was doing the same thing. You don't want to be the person that's bothering your friends and family. You don't want to be that person that's like always knocking on your door that you're just like, I wish would go away. You don't want to be that person, but you have to be.
Yeah.
You really have to be. And
Yeah.
so I am still there because, the stuff on TikTok, all that stuff is helping, and people are starting to come to me, which is good. But I still, like I said, I was having emails where I was sending once a week, and I was like, I know you're seeing these emails. I know I'm bothering you. You have to not
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to be adamant about following up. Part of my whiteboard thing is that I have a list of people where I'm like, time to email the ghost that never emails me back. And you have to do it.
Did the medium track that ghost down for you yet?
I know.
No.
She did. That's how all my problems would be solved. But no, you're just going to have constantly people who are not interested in you, and you have to be annoying. And how I built this podcast, why I love it, is because everybody has this phase where you feel guilty and you feel like almost ashamed. And my investor, John, would tell you, like, you have to remove that layer. You have to find a way to get it in a separate part of your brain to tell yourself, like, I have to do this. This is part of it.
Yeah.
Well, and I can't speak much for like the future, but I can say that there are experiences too where you feel like you've overcome that phase because you do really well for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost like being like, how you'll get on a roller coaster and then you go up, right? And it's like the click, click, and you're like, oh my God, can we just get up to the top?
Right.
And then it releases you and you're like, well, all right, cool, great.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, you're on a roller coaster where like you come to a second spot where it slows down and it's like click, click, click. And you're like, wait, what?
Again?
We're
Yeah.
doing this again? Like, that's what it's like as an entrepreneur. Like you'll hit that point, you're like, wait, I already did that.
Right.
No, we were riding, man. We were coasting.
Oh,
like,
it's a wave. I
Yeah.
mean, that's where I am right now. But like in the end of 2019, I was on CNN and the New York Times when I was here.
Yeah.
And then for all of 2019 and 2020, because of the pandemic and no interaction with anybody, I was way down here.
I'm so glad you're doing the roller coaster
Yes.
with your hand right now. Yes,
that's what
it's a
it
good
is.
analogy.
It's a wave, and
Yeah.
it comes in waves. And then you have the top one. And
Yeah.
I know I'm having like a 5 minutes of fame here thing, but I will go back down to having to talk to people to be like, I have products, and they're like, cool, I don't care. You have to.
Right.
They're like, cool, did you find the deed?
Yeah, that is what's happening right now. People are like, you have products, but what about the deed? I'm like,
You're like, no, buy the products and then I'll tell you.
Let me tell you about my products.
Just make a Patreon and make one of the gates. I'll tell you about the deed if you buy so much.
if
If you
let me
donate
tell
enough
you.
to my Patreon, I'll tell you about the deed.
Right, exactly.
Quickly, what are your thoughts on Patreon and or like the alternative means for creators and businesses to like engage with their community? So like I'm thinking, Patreon, I'm thinking Discord.
What is Patreon? I'm not even
for
sure.
real?
Whoa!
Oh,
All right.
shit. So Patreon is
it's something. First off, I think you would benefit from.
Okay.
As someone who you can explain it, but as someone who creates the content that you create naturally, like we said before, you don't live on a plot of land, you live on a plot device, right?
Right.
Patreon would definitely be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
Matt, explain Patreon.
Yeah, so like high level, Patreon is a platform for creators where you sign up and you offer you basically give people who have like personal investments in your business or your like creator world to fund you and your creative ventures. So like there are tiers of like your people are called patrons, and what they do is they pay you a monthly fee.
Subscription,
it's like $5
pretty much. Yeah,
it's a subscription
anywhere from $1 to 20, 30. Some people have
whatever.
tiers that go all the way up to 180.
Yeah, and so for each tier, you get like you give people like exclusive access to maybe like extra content, or you like link, maybe like you link up with them on Discord or some sort of like messaging, group messaging service.
Yeah, here's a really good example.
Yeah.
I am a patron of Coffee People Zine of Kat Melheim.
Okay.
Right? So I pay $15 a month, and that is my Coffee People Zine subscription.
Okay.
But the tiers below that are you don't get like a physical copy of the magazine, you get like the digital copy for $10, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get like, some updates on Patreon. You can see some of the stuff as it's going on. She'll send like special videos out every now and then. So everybody gets all that. The people who are just donating $1 maybe get some special videos, but like no digital copy of the magazine. They still have to buy that. Okay. But they can feel good because they're pitching in $1 to the thing that they believe in.
Yeah.
Me, I'm like, I get a physical copy of the magazine, which I've wanted anyway since we first had her on the podcast. And I was like, oh, but this goes more. I asked her when she was on here, I said, hey, what's the best way for me to subscribe to your magazine? She said Patreon. And I was like, okay, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like for you would be like, oh, for, $15, like, maybe you get like a CBD joint or something, like you get one of the CBD pre-rolls.
But I think a lot of the value though comes in like personal interaction with that creator or person. Yeah. So like here, an example would be, I'm a patron of James Hoffman, who's he's a coffee content creator. He's a coffee entrepreneur. He's like, if you're in coffee, James Hoffman. He's like the guy, right?
Right.
And what that allows him to do is he's got a whole YouTube channel where he reviews products. And instead of those businesses sending him the products for free, he's able to use the money that people on Patreon pay him to buy those products himself. And then he gives those products away to his patrons.
Yeah.
When he's done, I'm in his personal like Discord with a bunch of people, so a bunch of coffee people are all chatting together, and they get to chat directly with James Hoffman.
That's cool.
Okay.
It's so look into it. I think it'd be really cool.
I think that would be cool. Yeah, it sounds good. I have people who are saying they want to be friends with me and know me, and I'm like, I can't do that on TikTok because I only get a minute. Like I feel like I can't talk to people.
Patreon and Discord.
Yeah,
they're your best
Discord,
friends for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
a little Discord server where everybody can get on.
Which you just did.
I just did
you
one for us.
You literally just did that. Yeah.
Yeah, and this one's free, right? People can just jump on and join, but then you can create like private channels on the server that like, only subscribers get to be on, and they get like more direct engagement with you. Yep. It's really cool. There's a lot of opportunity there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to look into it.
Yeah.
That cool.
We need to also make a Patreon, I think, because there's a way for us to also navigate those waters.
I think coming into 2021, 2022 area, there's definitely ways that we can now create one a little bit better.
Yeah,
I think when we first founded this, it would have been way harder to do Patreon and figure out like what's of value yet. But now that we have an identity, we can do it.
Yeah, that's very important. Right.
Yeah.
You need that identity.
One thing I'm noticing is in entrepreneurship, you have ideas just ad nauseum. I could do this, I could do that, I could try this. And you have to like pick 3, try them, see what doesn't work, kill that off. Right. You know what I mean? Try another thing, murder it,
Murder.
Television show. We kill off those characters.
Yeah, you can't try it all at once.
Right.
Iris Rogers, let's talk really quick about what's in your mug.
Oh yeah, what coffee are you drinking today?
And how do you like it? Do you like your coffee?
I think I forget the name.
That's okay.
No, it's all good, Matt.
Okay.
That was a setup.
It was something about a banana.
No, we were talking about guava banana.
I wish it was the guava banana.
Me too.
I'll tell you what. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna send her home with some guava banana.
Oh, I would love
Congratulations!
Great, I'm so excited.
It's underneath your seat.
That's great.
We're Oprah.
We're Oprah.
Hey, I love free coffee.
What you have. Let's do it this way. What does that taste like to you, that coffee?
Um,
And you don't have to be an expert. No wrong
like,
answers.
What does it
no
remind
wrong
you
answers.
of? It could also be a memory or...
Yeah, we're not going to hit you with a buzzer sound at any point. Stop it. Stop it.
okay, well, I'm a big craft brewery person.
Okay.
So I think I'm pretty basic in the coffee world, so you'll have to forgive me. But in
it's all
a
good.
craft brewery world, it reminds me of a sour.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very nice.
Okay.
Solid.
All right.
Yeah, that's that lime
Thank
that you're
God.
picking
Oh my
up
God.
on. There's a citric acid content.
Yeah.
There's a couple different acids in there, right?
Okay.
And they end up emulating the flavor of lime, which
Okay.
is very sour.
Yes.
It makes you pucker a little bit.
Right.
And this is Los Yoyos.
Yoyos.
It is roasted by Ron Greco
Okay.
of Stacks. It's actually, we got the bag right here. Right?
Nice.
It is the
Yeah, it's from Honduras, right? It's
Eulogio Martinez. Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh,
yeah,
it's
Eulogio
delicious.
Martinez.
Yeah,
Eulo-
that's tropical.
Yeah,
Gio.
so my very basic understanding of this story is that this guy, he has a farm in Honduras. I think it's Honduras, right? Should say it on there, maybe.
I think so. Oh, I'm sorry. I
You're
didn't drop it.
good. It's Honduras.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's from Santa Barbara.
Yeah, Santa Barbara, Honduras. This farm specifically, there's I have to understand better.
Nice. Yeah.
I have to
I
understand.
like the adventure thing too. I didn't mean to cut
Yeah,
you off. But
yeah.
it says comforting, adventurous, because I took a sip and I was like, ooh, this is bold.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like,
different,
yeah.
right? It's unique. Yeah, actually, I prefer that as well. We did something like that on our bag. Instead of saying like dark and light, we said like
Sunrise hikes.
no,
What?
the scale.
Oh,
It says
traditional.
Traditional modern.
Yep, traditional.
Yeah.
Okay,
Modern,
cool.
Yeah, so my baseline understanding of that coffee is that it won the Cup of Excellence Award in 2015.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
cool,
Ron.
I guess.
Ron actually sent me home with a sample of this in December when because we were picking out what we were going to have in our holiday packs, and
Right.
this we ended up going with the Banco Gotiti,
Yes.
which was I mean still it's a banger.
It's
Yep.
a banger.
I'll tell you guys, I never drink black coffee anymore, just plain without cream or sugar, because I did that in modeling and I hated it. I was like, I hated drinking black coffee because I couldn't have cream or sugar.
Sure, yeah.
And then we
so
handed you black coffee.
You did, but I don't hate it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
right.
like, oh, I could drink this without cream or sugar, and I was like, that's kind of a big deal because I never drink coffee. I have this whole thing. You don't have to include this, but I have this whole thing about sugar in my coffee because my most recent relationship I got broken up with because I put too much sugar in my coffee. The guy broke
What?
up with me because of that. That
Who
was
is this man?
He's local. He's from
We're-
Saratoga.
Let's find it.
We're serious
Dox
about
him.
coffee. We're serious about
know.
coffee, but we wouldn't do that.
I know, and I was like, I put like 2 small spoonfuls, and I was like, so then I felt compelled to stop putting sugar in my coffee, and then I was like, no, never, and I started putting so much just to spite.
Oh,
so
oh.
now I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh wait, I could drink this coffee without cream or sugar, and that makes me really.
So
happy.
you're saying, had you met us first, you'd still be in this relationship
Oh,
with this guy who doesn't
good or
deserve you?
bad? Good
or
Obviously,
Would that be good or bad? Discuss.
Bad. It's bad.
Discuss.
It's bad.
It's bad. I think it was a bullet dodged for sure.
Well, I think that's a big red flag.
Yeah, big red flag.
Dudes breaking up with people because of 2 spoonfuls of sugar.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
It was very confusing.
But then she drinks Keurig coffee. I still love her.
Oh,
yeah.
Mike, see? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, no.
That's a good man right there.
That's a good man. That's that's love right
Look at him pounding
there.
he's like, yeah,
That's
what
love.
man.
That's
Yeah,
marriage.
I'll
you
tell you what.
accept people for how they are. And I was like, I can't be with somebody who is going to not accept that I like sugar in my coffee. So yeah, it's a good thing you're dumping me.
Yeah,
Bullet
right.
dodge.
I'm gonna do this real quick. A couple really cool things. Matt. He's obviously married, loving husband, but Matt is like. Kenzie's really lucky. He's like the modern, like awesome guy find. Like he's like he can be like effeminate and be okay with it.
Yep.
He can have some emotions. Like he's very
we love
loving and
emotions.
caring. He's all about being open and like explaining things to each other and being like accepting of that.
Communication.
You know,
Dig
yeah.
into this. What else you got?
Oh yeah.
Tell me how great I am.
Yeah, no, he loves his dog. Like it.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
No,
he's a loving guy, and he's not afraid to be a loving guy. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big step for men in
World
maturity
needs
that
more
we're
of
learning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, my only response, other than thank you,
You're welcome.
is I've always been a more feminine man in terms of that funny scale that we have of this toxic masculinity scale where like men have to be like, I don't have feelings, and I'm, this. I've always just been like very open with how I'm feeling. I'm very in touch with my emotions. I am. I connect with women very easily, and sometimes with men, especially like more masculine men. I
just have empathy.
Empathy.
I think that's really what it is.
You have empathy.
It's so funny that we think of empathy as being like a feminine thing. Empathy is like necessary thing.
Yeah, totally not. I know. It's fun. It's the society, the terms. So
you dodged a bullet recently.
I did. And I'm sitting here like, I don't, I can have sugar in my coffee, but I guess I don't need it. It's great.
on a future Instagram post, just hashtag black coffee.
Black
just
coffee.
Say like, and then when he sees it, he'll be like,
oh no, he's definitely, I've thrown out a few.
Oh, have you?
I have.
A couple jabs?
A little shade. Because it was like this whole thing. It was.
Couple post-relationship Taylor Swift style jabs.
I do. Yeah. I leave Easter eggs sometimes. I never am like, I'm never gonna ruin your life or anything. But if break up with me for sugar in my coffee, that deserves a little bit of a poke.
A little bit.
Oh yeah.
Thoughts on hey, what's your jam this week, Kev?
Ooh, let's get it. Let's ask Iris. You went to school for music.
Yes.
Oh my God. What's your jam? What are you listening to right now?
Oh my gosh. What am I listening to? Okay. Well, I have to be honest. I'm on like on a 60 miles an hour thing right now. I'm just like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I need music that's going to make me going.
Yeah.
And so I'm like packaging orders, and I'm making bath bombs, and I'm like doing all these things. And I also have to like go home and like brush my hair and my teeth and like actually take care of myself. And so I'm listening constantly to the Hamilton soundtrack because it just like, it's background and it makes me go. And then occasionally I'll sing to it. So it like breaks up the day for me.
You just want that shot.
I do. I'm not throwing away my shot. And I'm like, we're like in my office. I'm like, yes, like dancing and stuff.
You know what? I saw you posted something with like the sisters.
Yes.
So,
the Schuyler sisters.
Oh, the Schuyler sisters.
Yep, we love it.
Have you seen Hamilton yet?
No.
You would like it.
Oh, you'd love it. So good.
On my list.
Yes, I live on that soundtrack throughout the day, but then when I'm kind of coming down and like just jamming, or if I go for a run, I'm big into Maggie Rogers. Love her. I am a secret Billie Eilish fan. I occasionally she gets me going. It's not a secret anymore.
We're out. It's out.
Yeah, it's out.
Okay.
I also love Phoebe Bridges, but then Phoebe Bridges. Oh, the heart. She's like, I
fucking love her.
I love
Matt's
her too.
artist of 2021 is Phoebe Bridges.
Love Phoebe Bridges. Oh my God.
Dude, Punisher ruined me.
I know.
Me.
She really is like, I have to map out one day a month to listen to Phoebe Bridges, drink wine, and cry in the bathtub just because I just need to.
Yeah.
I'm not even sad. I just have to do it because her songs are so emotional.
I'm like driving to work in the rain. It's like, when the speed kicks in. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh my.
Go to the store.
Speaking of empathy.
Nothing, yeah.
Speaking of empathy.
Yeah, for real.
That's an empathic listen.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. You can't not have emotion listening to her. Yeah. But I'm gonna take the opportunity to throw out some of my friends' names. I'm also a huge listener of Ava Ray Heatley. She's amazing. I went to college with her, and she has a couple bangers that I've used in some of my TikTok videos.
Okay. I saw that.
Yep. Sarah Denellen. I also love her music.
Yo, Sarah Denellen.
She's her voice and her music, she's so talented. And so I really like to listen to her when I'm trying to like calm down. Like I am like trying to like chill. And Ava's got a couple bangers, so I always turn her like Grin and Bear It is just about like fighting through it and like and I love Grin and Bear It. And I listen to Daryl Ron a lot, who I also went to college with, and he's more acoustic. So I kind of put that on if I'm like doing laundry at home, like he's a different mood. I'm a big advocate for my friends I went to college for, but I try to listen to them as much as possible too. So that's what I'm listening to.
Nice. Maddie, what you got?
Well, just so you know,
Phoebe
Kev. Just so you know, Sarah Denellen is one of Kenzie's best friends.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Sick.
And she was my roommate in college.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we lived together.
Oh, my God. We're about to go upstairs, and you and Kenzie are about to become friends. Just so you know, I heard her moving.
She's here.
Yeah.
I said to Kenzie the other day, I'm like, we're talking to this girl, Iris. She like blew up on TikTok or something. She's like, I know
her.
Like,
yes.
We've met.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Sarah was in the wedding, right? She was.
Yeah, she was in our wedding.
Yep.
Kenzie's like, you're not the only cool one in this relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love Sarah Dawn. We were roommates in college, and that's kind of how I kind of connected. I was like in the opera program, and then I got kind of like adopted into this group of songwriting composition friends that I was like, I'm gonna
the best kind of
scoop in
friends
here.
to be with.
They are the
They
best
always have
friends.
shows going on, so you always have something to do.
Yeah.
And I just loved going to all their shows, and I love supporting them. And it's very cool also for me to see their progression of music, of like what they were writing in college, and now that we're out and we're experiencing new things, like what they're writing about, because it's also relatable. Like what they're writing about, I'm going through. So I'm like, I feel you.
I can't believe so many people are having breakups over sugar. That's
Oh
crazy.
my
Unbelievable.
gosh. I asked
So many
Ava,
people.
I asked my best friend, I was like, can you please write a song about that? Please,
Yeah.
please, please.
Or at
So
least
maybe
throw
she'll do
it in.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
she'll do it.
I was too sweet for you. You knew it. That's a
And
good
you
line
knew it.
right there.
Yeah, too much sugar.
Yeah, there's so many ways you can go with that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Easy.
Well, she has
Yep.
some good ones. She has this song called "All These Boys," and it was
All these boys.
Yeah,
Whoa.
it's so good. It's called "All These Boys," and it was basically about the same thing of like we went through a period where like we were both getting dumped for things of like what other men expected us to be, and we were not meeting expectations, and we
Yes.
kept just getting broken up with. And she wrote "All These Boys," and I was like, I love this song because we would have these guys telling us like what's going on with you and like what's happening with you and what I think about you, and me and Ava would be like, okay, but I'm saying to you and I'm speaking to you
Yeah.
this, and you're telling me that's not how I feel.
Dude, I was stuck in that trap as a man. I really, when I was a boy, right? Like at like high school, college, I was that guy.
Did
I
you
was
do
like,
that?
I was like, you're crazy. You're acting crazy.
Whoa.
I was totally that guy. And I was in a toxic relationship. And you know what? Now that I'm like pushing 30, I can say I was also a large part of that toxicity. It wasn't
Yeah.
just one way.
Whoa.
Wow.
Maturity, bro.
Okay.
Personal
Whoa,
growth.
personal growth.
Snaps for personal
We
growth.
love it.
Yeah. All right, what's your jam,
Yeah.
man?
All right, my jam. I hope I'm not stealing this from you because you sent this to me and Matthew. But
What is it?
Nico Walters.
Oh,
Escape?
yeah.
That was a bop, dude. I like.
So good.
I love a good bop for TikTok.
We will send you
Send it to
these
me.
bops.
Stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
you will love them.
Kevin will send me a record a week at minimum, and sometimes I ignore it. Oftentimes I don't. If I do ignore it, it's a mistake because it's usually a bop.
Yeah. Okay.
You've introduced me to some of my favorite records.
Well,
of
I
all
sent
time.
you that because
You
that's
sent
like
me-
very similar to like Mac DeMarco.
Yeah.
that vein of music, right?
You sent, I think you're the person that sent me "Punisher" by Phoebe
I
Bridgers.
did, yeah.
Oh.
Very early on this year, I listened to that album. Was like here's the thing. I love
That was
all
an
music.
emotional reaction.
Yeah, I love all music, and like, and I'm really into it.
Right.
And then I'll hear things and I'll think of people, and I'll just send it to them. I'm
Yep.
just like, this is for you. Like it's not gonna be in my permanent rotation, but I
Right.
know it's in yours.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
like I'm my own radio DJ. I'm just sending
it.
people the songs that are dedicated to
That's
me.
a
I'm
good
like,
friend
yeah.
too. I love it when people send
Yeah.
me music.
So you like Nico Walters now?
Yeah, really
okay.
great. So
And you
that's
like
my jam.
Escape?
Yeah,
That song, that record, or that song?
both.
Because that's the title
Yeah, the
track.
record's great though.
Yeah, the record's dope.
front to back.
Okay, cool. Anything else that you want to throw in on that? Because we got to.
podcast.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me, I'm eating a bagel on the
Bagel.
podcast. I'm listening to that podcast that Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen
Born in
did.
the USA.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Renegades. Born in the
Renegades.
USA.
That sounds cool.
It's
Super
real cool.
Okay.
I mean, come on, President Barack
Yeah.
Obama's got a podcast.
And
Yeah.
he's talking to the boss.
The boss.
Right? The
boss
ex-boss is
and
talking to the boss. Yeah.
I still am like, Barack is the boss.
I know.
follow that.
Oh, we miss him.
Yeah, we do.
We miss him.
We do. We
Yeah.
miss him.
Yeah, my jam is actually okay. So you've got Nico Walters' The Escape because I sent it to you. But the reason I sent that to you is because Nico Walters just released another version of Not My Neighbor with one of my favorite modern singers, Kiana Lede, who's so good. She's so good.
Okay.
And like the songwriting, I don't know if you saw me and Natalie Carr were like nerding out about
I
the
jump in that
songwriting in
chat
that
every
song.
once in a while, and
Okay.
I'm like, you guys are buddies.
Yeah, so we have a songwriter friend named Natalie who's also blowing up right now.
Kinda
She
blowing
just did a
up.
huge thing with Cookies. You know Cookies from California? They're the largest weed dispensary / producer in California.
Okay.
She did a live thing with them that had like 1.2 million viewers.
Love.
We're just surrounded by people who are infinitely more famous than us. That's what we do
That's
in
what
our
we
lives
do.
now. Yeah, we surround ourselves with more famous people and we go, hey, let's talk.
Hey, let's talk.
No,
Hey,
but
that's not a bad thing.
yeah, we were nerding out about the songwriting because it's so, I've been into metal a lot because like it's spring, I'm moving, I'm going on like these like 8-mile, 10-mile runs.
Okay.
And I love metal for that. Like I'm an old school metalhead.
Not normal, by the way.
No, yeah. But like I'll be listening to a lot of like really chaotic music and really enjoying it, but like at peace with it. And then this song came on. And it's called Not My Neighbor, and it's very simple production. Like the guitar is super smooth, just a little bit of a funky bass line. And then there's these really cool accents from steel drum samples that are just like, they just hit at like the right moment, and it tells a proper story of a guy who's like obviously robbed a place, and then like his like lover is telling the cops like he's not my neighbor anymore, and like so like there's a cover up going on, and the original song is really cool in its own right, but then when Kiana Lede comes in, she tells like the female perspective on the story, and she has a sick line. She just says, because every guy that's a criminal needs someone on the inside. And I was like, when that line hit, I was like, I got chills. I was like, this song took on a whole other level.
Oh my gosh,
yeah, so like
spooky. I love it.
That's my jam this week.
Okay.
But speaking of breakup songs and guys who need to talk about themselves, Natalie Carr, I'm going to throw this in here, has a really great breakup song called Let's Talk About You.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Ooh, that sounds like I need to listen to that and appropriate. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about you. I love that.
Yeah, man.
I have to listen to that.
Iris, where can people find you?
Where can people find me?
Everywhere right now.
Yeah, you can find me on obviously TikTok. That is just like going wild. I'm like trying not to look at it because occasionally like I'll have lulls, and now it's like growing again. So I think we're at like 370 right now, 1,000 followers, which is just wild.
Holy
I know, it's just
blew up.
crazy. It blew up. So you can find me there, but you can't really talk to me there. More personal interaction is definitely on my Homestead Hemp 1787 Instagram account. So I have a lot of people like trying to reach out and requests, and I try to do a good job of like answering people and actually connecting with them there. You can also find me on Facebook, same thing, Homestead Hemp 1787. I have a page. You can give us a like, and if you have questions about CBD, I generally answer those over Instagram or Facebook. And you can also go to my website, homesteadhemp1787.com, and shoot me an email. And a lot of people have been doing that because they're new to CBD and they have questions. So you can always shoot me an email, and I will talk back with you to see what you're trying to accomplish and what would fit you best. So,
ask her questions.
ask me questions. I'm
Please.
here for it.
Yeah. Ask the experts.
Yes. I don't know if I'm an expert, but I can at least,
ask people who have more expertise than you have.
Yes, exactly. I can definitely help with that. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
Well,
Matt, where can people find you?
Where can people find me? Petting my dog, being plant dad at 5 Highgate Road.
That's great. They're going to find you on TikTok because I'm going to take the deed from your house and go hide it in a milk can on her property.
You know what? I'm like waiting for somebody to start copying me because so many people are like, oh, I'm going to start a scavenger hunt for my future generations. I think I might have started a new trend that might go 30 years from now.
Yeah, right. whatever the social media is in 30 years. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, you see, my great grandmother saw this on TikTok, and now we're doing a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we think TikTok will be in history books?
Absolutely.
I think it will
Absolutely.
be. It's really changed the face of social media platform. Like if you want to get into it, like other Instagram and Facebook are having a hard time keeping up with it because it's just it's incredible. I mean, I went from 75 followers to 200,000 in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Did you see Instagram just added the remixes this week?
Yeah.
It was like, we do remixes now. It's like, okay, TikTok.
Yeah, they're trying. They're trying. Yeah, it's crazy.
I hate Facebook.
I hate Facebook.
So
too.
dead.
It's a great
not on it. Yeah. Oh, got rid of it. I ditched it harder than I ditched MySpace.
Okay.
Like just gone. I was like, I woke up one day and was like, nope, we're done.
We're done.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I highly encourage people to follow suit because it's just like it's full of bots now. It's really bad, and like as much as Facebook, like it's so bad. Facebook has an ad campaign about how Facebook isn't that bad. That's their ad campaign right now. It's like we care about our security. It's like obviously you're having security issues.
Yeah, it's a graveyard. I'm hardly on my personal one. Like I'll post updates, but I'm not really on it too much.
Catch us on TikTok and the Gram, which is owned by Facebook.
Right, which is owned by Facebook. Yep.
Thanks, Zuck.
Yep. Thanks, Zuck. I know.
Any final words?
Just thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I
thank
was
you for
telling him it was
coming.
very nice to actually talk because on TikTok I only get a minute, so I feel like I've had this like minute cage around me, and it feels very nice to speak.
Well,
so thank you.
We just did a full hour and a half.
Yes,
so
it feels
congrats
so
to
good.
that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Catch you next time.
Bye.
Peace.